first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the lengths of chain apart and separate the individual curved bars. The easiest way to do this is to have your cutter span the entire width of the ring and just snip through. Take care not to cut the loops on the curved bars and only cut the rings. Cross our threads through our middle crystal. Cross our threads through our middle crystal. And on one thread, we're going to string one of our curved links from the outside of the curve to the inside. Now we're going to take the end of the wire and go into the other loop in the chain. And what I want you to notice is how Michelle controls the wire when she pulls the slack out. This will prevent you from getting kinks in your thread. Keep it nice and smooth. We're going to pull the slack out of the thread, and the easiest way to do this without curling your cable is to pinch the beads and pull the thread sideways. So the link slides down the chain. Like that. Now we're going to cross our thread through our middle crystal. Slack out. When your bracelet is the correct length, we're going to end it by tapering the two ends of the bracelet. To do that, you're going to string a small bead on each thread. And then we're going to string on a bead that matches the side crystals on each thread. If you crossed through a middle bead that is 3 millimeter in size, you're going to want to string on 3 millimeter beads. But if you cross through a bead that's 4 millimeter in size, we're going to string on 2 4 millimeter beads. This is a 3 millimeter bead, so we're going to string on a 3 millimeter bead on each thread to taper. But notice that it matches the crystals on the sides of the bracelet. Okay. Then we're going to run both threads through a crimp. They need to go through the crimp in the same direction as if they were one thread. Like this. Now we're going to string on our wire protector. Both threads have to go through one end of the protector and back down through the other end. Okay. Now you'll string on your clasp. And go back through the crimp. all the slack out of the cables. Use the chain nose plier to flatten the crimp. Then switch to a crimping tool to fold the crimp in half. The crimping tool has two parts on its jaw. There's an inner hole and there's an outer hole. We're going to put the crimp that has just been flattened into the inner hole of the jaw. We're going to lay it flat like this. And we're going to gently press the crimping tool shut, and this will leave a dent down the middle of the crimp. Turn the crimp at a 90-degree angle, and we're going to use the outer hole to fold the crimp in half along the dent we just put in the crimp. Use your chain nose plier and squish the crimp along the fold just to be sure that it hasn't opened up as you folded it in half. Now we're going to cover the folded crimp with our crimp cover. Hold the crimp cover in the outside hole of the crimping tool and put it around the crimp. Gently press the crimp cover shut until the two ends almost meet. Then you're going to turn the crimp cover so that the jaw covers the seam, and you're going to press shut until the seam closes. If you'd like to make a wider version of this bracelet, we're going to cut another 2 pieces of cable and tape each about 3 inches from the end. And again, we are going to cross through our middle crystal. And pull all the slack out. Then on the thread that's closer to your first pass, we're going to string on our chain link from the outside of the curve to the inside. And we're going to string our small bead. But instead of stringing on a new 4mm crystal, we're going to run the thread through the existing 4mm crystal on one edge of our bracelet. It's easiest if you bend the piece at the point where you want to insert your thread. Push through and pull the slack out. Then we need to string on our second small bead and go back through the second hole on the link from the inside of the curve to the outside. We need to string a link of chain on the other thread, string on a small bead, a 4mm bead, and a small bead. Go through the second hole on the link from the inside of the curve to the outside. Pull most of the slack out. And then we're going to cross our threads through our middle bead. And pull tight. Repeat until you reach the end of the bracelet. On a small bead on each thread and a 3mm round. Okay, we're going to string our crimp onto the 2 threads as if they were one. Our wire protector. Remember, you have to go through both ends of the wire protector. Then our 2-stranded clasp, we're going to go through one of the holes and then go back through our crimp. And pull all the slack out. Remember to get all the slack out by pulling. You can pull each thread individually just to make sure that there are no gaps. Okay. Again, we're going to leave about a fingernail width of space between the crimp and the wire protector. That's too much. To taper the ends to finish with a single strand clasp, first string a silver bead on each of the threads along the edges of the bracelet, then cross the middle 2 threads through 2 silver beads as if they were one bead. Then string a 3mm round crystal on each of the 4 threads. Pair the threads, then run each pair through a silver bead. And finally, string a 3mm round crystal on each pair of threads. Now you will be able to finish the bracelet as demonstrated for the single pass version, but instead of having only 2 threads to end, you now have 4. But you can still use the same sizes of crimp, wire protector, and crimp cover to finish. Be sure to pull all the slack out of the threads before crimping so you have a nice, clean ending.